Good morning, everybody. Such a pleasure to be hosting a bazaar this Saturday morning. And I'm going to remind Sham to switch on our Instagram stream so that friends on Instagram can watch and get started as well. Arun ji, so lovely to see you here. Long time. I know you've been busy with school. To our friends on Instagram who've just joined us, welcome to Funky Rainbow's Book Bazaar this bright and sunny Saturday morning. Lots of wishes going out to all of you who are watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. It's Eid, so Eid Mubarak to everyone who's celebrating, to everyone who's not celebrating as well. It's also World Book and Copyright Day, and we are delighted to host this bazaar on the eve of World Book and Copyright Day. This bazaar of the Parag Honor List 2023 books, just on the eve of World Book Day 2023. I mean, it was created by UNESCO. The day was created by UNESCO, in 1995 as a worldwide celebration of books and reading. And there was something interesting that I found when I was reading up about World Book Day, just a couple of days ago. It was conceived by Vincent Clevel, who was the director of the Cervantes Publishing House in Barcelona. And you know why he came up with the idea of a World Book Day? He wanted to honor Miguel Cervantes, after whom the publishing house is named. And he also, wanted to sell a lot more books, drawing attention to, to books so that people came and picked up quite a lot of them. That was a pretty clever idea, I think, and it was first celebrated way back in 7th October 1926, which was Cervantes's birthday, actually. Miguel de Cervantes's birthday. But they eventually, and I don't know why they did it, they eventually shifted it to 23rd April. They shifted it sometime in 1930 to Cervantes's death day. I don't know why they changed it to that one, but whatever it is, we're delighted to be celebrating it. And many years later, when UNESCO actually made it a formal World Day, they said it's also the death anniversary of William Shakespeare, and hence, a great day. And I believe a lot more writers, whom we lost on this day. So we celebrate it as World Book Day. Ritvika Roy, lovely to see you here. Muttama, fabulous to see you right from our office, telling us that it's Eid, of course, and wishing us an Eid Mubarak. Ritvika saying, love how considered, thoughtful and conscientious the Parag Honor List books are. Really, I mean, I can't agree more, Ritvika, about that, because really the idea of a curated collection of outstanding books in English and Hindi, which the Parag, initiative of the Tata Trust has been putting out for the last 3 years, 21, 22 and 23. It's lovely that Funky Rainbow has associated with them every year to promote these lists. What it does for people is to put together a collection of books that they can easily access from amongst the thousands that get published every year. And we know that they, carefully select these books to make lists in English and in Hindi, and we hope at some point in some other Indian languages as well. Shruti Sri Raghunath, such a pleasure to see you, one of our oldest supporters, an avid reader and a wonderful librarian, and a facilitator of reading among so many young people. Such a pleasure to watch you at the, to have you at the bazaar this morning. So, like I was telling you, the list, the Parag Honor list, is developed with careful screening and multiple reviews by experts in the field of children's literature, and it aims really to provide children and adults, educationists, across the country, a curated list of good quality children's literature that everybody can use and refer to. Now, the Parag Honor List 2023, which is what we're focusing on in this bazaar, it features a collection of 52 books for children and young adults from 33 Indian publishers. Now, there are 31 books in English and 21 books in Hindi. And it's just such a delight for Team Funky Rainbow, who's been looking at these lists every year. I mean, we've been with Parag, on the list, and we've actually had, parents and teachers and librarians who now come to us and ask us for Parag on a list books, basically. It's such a pleasure to see a lot more Hindi books. Like, I remember in the first year, perhaps, quite a lot of English books and a reasonable selection of Hindi ones. In the second year, there seemed to be like a larger gap between the two languages. But this time, 31 in English and 21, in Hindi. And, we're just absolutely happy to have books in the Indian languages as well that would, that engage young readers in interesting ways. Now, they had over 250 submissions. They had over 250 submissions, from which these 31 books in English and 21 books in Hindi have been chosen. And there's a wide range of genres. I mean, there's books on the arts, on environment, on climate change, on gender, on poetry. It's just such a lovely, lovely mix of books for readers, young readers of all ages, starting from the ages of 0, going up to 18, toddlers to young adults. Now, there are three things that I wanted to say before we start off on our list of recommendations. And the three things that we have noticed about the Parag Honor list across the last 3 years, the thing is, the lists are becoming, so much more all-encompassing, more publishers in the fray, and we all want it. We want as many publishers to come into this mix. I mean, we don't want these lists to become elite kind of lists, basically, right, where only a certain kind of publisher gets represented. And that's just wonderful about Parag, that they've managed to sort of cast that web really wide to include many, many publishers in whose books come into their list. So they've become a lot more all-encompassing, a lot more representative. And like I said, we really do. In these 3 years, we've noticed that there are teachers and librarians and even parents who come to ask, saying that, can we actually take a look at these books from the Parag Honor list? So that's just wonderful. Now, for an independent bookseller like Funky Rainbow, we stock books in all Indian languages. I mean, as many as we can source, and as many that we're sure of in the sense of the quality and the content of the books. It introduces us, a Parag Honor list introduces us to books in Hindi. I mean, we stock in English, we stock in all the South Indian languages, and we've also sourced in Marathi. And, depending on what our customers ask us for, we typically carry Kannada, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, and Malayalam, because there's, more requests for those languages from us. But for people like us, it really introduces us to books and publishers in Hindi that we may not have known otherwise. And I have to say that, Muttama at Funky Rainbow tirelessly promotes Hindi books. I mean, she herself is, familiar, a very good reader of Hindi books, and, promotes them in schools considerably. That so much so that last year, for the first time, we had one school that came to us and said, could you bring for us a pop-up, which is the Funky Rainbows format? We pop up in different places. We pop up in schools, we pop up in parks, we pop up in public spaces, and we pop up with a big collection of children's books, which is largely in English. And we always have a smattering of books in the languages. But for the first time, one of the schools that we had sort of been working with across the last 4-5 years said, can you pop up just exclusively with a collection of Hindi books. And I can't tell you how much joy it gave us, and how much panic it gave us as well, because when we take books, we really want to take lots and lots of books. And it's thanks to lists like the Parag Honor list that we have been able to build a big collection of Hindi books as well, because we know somebody is vetting them for us. Somebody is saying that the quality of these books are great and children everywhere must access them. And that is just, it's such a big service that the Parag Honor list provides to independent booksellers like us. And personally, I mean, I have to say this before I start off on my recommendations, that it's an utter delight to see so many wonderful picture books in Hindi. And this year I felt we didn't have too many of the Pratham books. I'm afraid the Pratham books that came into the Parag Honor list books were not in print as we were sort of discussing this Buzzaar. And I think they've been reprinted now. Lakshmi messaged to say that they've been reprinted, so we'll place our orders to ensure that all of the Pratham ones come. And we do have a few of them which already existed in our collection and in our stock. But for instance, Dugga, we don't have copies of Dugga in print, which we loved so much. So because those picture books, the Pratham picture books in English, were not available with us, when I was looking at the lists in English and Hindi, it was just such a delight to find beautiful picture books in Hindi. To me, it almost felt at that time when I was looking at both the lists, and this is just, in my head, it's not like a comparison, that the Hindi books perhaps trumped the English ones this time. The Hindi picture books perhaps trumped the English ones this time. But I also know I'm saying this only because we didn't have many of the Pratham picture books in English in stock with us. So outstanding service provided by the Tata Trust in the form of the Parag Honor lists. And I can see so many more people joining us. Joanne Saldana, love the summery sunshine background. Yes, it's been, we now do the Buzzaar from the studio, from Sham's studio. And it just gives us this nice big space, sunny backgrounds. And we're hoping, the next season of the Buzzaar, we will be able to change our backgrounds at whim. Lots of lessons taken from you on that, Joanne Saldana. Lakshmi Karunakaran, what a pleasure it is to welcome you to the Buzzaar this morning. You say good morning, and what a wonderful way to be celebrating Eid and World Book Day. Absolutely. We welcomed everybody on an Eid Mubarak note, and also on the celebratory note on the eve of World Book Day. Ritvika says she would love to see a Parag list on exclusively translated books, also something that would be very, very welcome. And Muttama is saying that the school that asked for this exclusive collection of books in Hindi is Advaishale, so a big shout out goes to them. Haripriya Batula, good morning. You say it's just such a pleasure to have you here after a long, long time. The feeling is mutual. So there we are. What I'm going to do, we've got fantastic guests coming up. So I'm going to keep my recommendations short and sweet, because we have a lot to talk about with Tejasvi Shivanand and Shaili Satyu, who will join us, in the next half hour to find out what goes into making these selections of books that we hope will really inspire new ways of reading, new ways of imagining, new ways of seeing, and new ways of thinking amongst readers of all ages. So what I have done is picked a couple of books that I thoroughly enjoyed from this list. I've tried to keep away the ones that the jury members who are joining us later in the show are going to talk about, so that way we don't repeat books, and we absolutely have as many books showcased from the honor list, although impossible to do justice to 31 books from English and 21 books from Hindi. Lakshmi saying, Ritvika, small effort on translation was made this time to review the honor list books and recommend the best translations. There is also This is also part of the catalog this time. Absolutely. Preeti Ramchandran, good morning. You say you always manage to spring a surprise theme. Excited to get introduced to more Indian language books. We just love to hear parents saying that, Preeti Ramchandran. We need and we know that our children must read multilingually. I mean, that's the greatest gift that we have in India, and I don't think we should. I think we should be able to give our children books in many, many languages and have them read in those languages as well. I'm going to start with a book that I utterly and absolutely loved. A little clip. Okay. Are you going to put up the images of the full set of books, Shams, so that, before I start off with my recommendations, it was not coming up? All right. Okay, my first one. And gosh, what a laugh a minute riot this book is really. Beauty is Missing, written and illustrated by the one and only Priya Kurian. Now, Beauty is Missing. Who is Beauty? Look at the beauty on the cover and tell me who Beauty is. Well, Beauty is none other than Tessama's beloved buffalo who goes missing. Now, what's happening? Where is she? Tessama's looking for her here, there, everywhere. And Constable Jinsey, who gets that complaint about missing Beauty, is determined to find out. Now, she goes all over the village, and there's just something about Priya Korean and Kerala, right? I mean, she just gets the ambience, the characters, their expressions with such, with such perfection that you can't but help revisit the pages and chuckle over these pictures over and over and over again. Every time I've picked up the book, I have laughed over something that I have spotted in the story and in Priya Kurian's illustrations. And I can just imagine young readers enjoying, young at heart readers enjoying this as much. So, what does Constable Jinsey do? She goes all over the village. She questions people, smart, sharp constable that she is. And, there are some clues that eventually lead her to Jinsey, and they are clues that are full of musical notes. Now, did you, for the reader who's looking at this music loving buffalo Beauty, how does Jinsey, go about finding her for Tessama? Are Tessama, and Beauty absolutely reunited by the end of the story? It's such a wonderful book. I mean, I've just loved reading it. I think children of all ages will absolutely enjoy it as well. And that's just the wonder of picture books. They are completely ageless. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to say this works for a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old. It just works for any age any age of child who is interested in a good and humorous mystery. Archana Atri, such a pleasure to see you here this morning. Great to be at the Buzzaar after so long and love the new look. Yes, it's been a really long time. We know you've been busy. We know you've been reading stories at the hospital in Delhi. And we know you've been spreading the love of books and reading amongst the nerds, amongst the, children in the cancer hospital. So welcome after a very, very long time. Thoroughly, thoroughly delighted to have you here. My next recommendation is a writer whom we've grown up admiring, not so much as a children's writer but as a filmmaker, as a lyricist, as a music writer, as a songwriter, with just the greatest fluidity, in composing music, essentially. I mean, also a person who's done movie scripts and such thought-provoking movies. So it's Gulzar. And when there was there were two books on the list, in fact, but I picked this one, Agar Magar, because I simply just loved the idea of this Q&A sort of book with between Gulzar and different kids. Now I'm going to say, read what the blurb of the book says, simply because it gives you an idea of what a wonderful man Gulzar Saab is himself. He says, बच्चों को सिखाने की कोशिश में पता चला हमें कितना कुछ उनसे सीखना पड़ता अ, कितना कुछ उनसे सीखना पड़ा, तब जाकर ये किताबें मुमकिन हुई। जरा बच्चों के साथ बैठकर ये किताबें पढ़िए तो पता चले उस्ताद कौन, शागिर्द कौन. Really, what beautiful lines, because the pleasure of reading these books, and I'm sure Joanne, and many of you, Archana, many of you librarians, teachers, I mean, I think you derive the best pleasure from books because you read them in the company of children, and their questioning, their curiosity, their joy, and that just absolutely comes alive. The book's joy, I mean the book's happiness, or the book's themes come alive so well when they are interpreted with children. And that's exactly what Gulzar Saab is saying here. Now, what is this book? It's a set of questions. I mean, these were questions that were sent out, not just now, but part of a magazine, basically, where Gulzar Saab used to do a column where he would respond to children's queries. Now, I think the best of those queries across various decades have been picked up and compiled into this book, so beautifully illustrated by Alan Shaw as well. And one of my, I'm just going to read you a couple of the queries that I've marked out in the book, right? They, like he says, if you'd sit down and read this with a child, there'd just be so many things that would come out of each of these questions. So one child, Tanishka, writes, bin boe घास कैसे उग जाती है? And Gulzar Saab's answer, घास जमीन के बाल हैं ना, घास जमीन के बाल हैं ना तनिष्का, तुम्हारे बाल किसी ने बोए थे क्या? I mean, it's just incredibly funny, and there are, I've picked out the humorous ones because I really felt like laughing, when I was reading these questions, and I'm thinking, what was that mind? What was that curiosity that asked that question? And Gulzar Saab, what beautiful, lovely responses. क्या आपने कभी अपने टीचर से डांट खाई है? Asks Sunita Saxena from Delhi. And he says, खाने में वही सबसे ज्यादा खाई. Look at the pictures, look at the illustrations. Alan Shaw capturing the beauty of those questions so wonderfully in this book. And just one more, बड़े ही होशियार क्यों होते हैं? Asks Tara from Bhagalpur. And his response is just a scream. आपकी उम्र में वे आपसे कम होशियार थे. Look at that, really, right? I can just imagine what a riot this column must have been when it was published in the magazine. And I can just imagine, I mean, just look at the book. There's tons of these beautiful questions up there. Gosh, hours of reading pleasure with the young people in your life. There is another book by Gulzar Saab in the collection too. All of these books available at Funky Rainbow. Do connect with us on 99004 95665. We would be delighted to send the Parag Honor List books from 21, 22, and 23 into your libraries and into your homes. Muttama saying, what an amazing writer and poet, and oh wow, such beautiful lines. Archana Atri saying, I've got all these books by Gulzar. They are so good, as are the illustrations, chuckle-inducing illustrations, honestly. My next recommendation this morning, and I'm keeping watch over time so I can, we can invite our guests in. I think we have another 20 minutes before they sort of come in and join us, is this Wonderful, wonderful book, so relevant to the times when we're waiting on Monday for the Supreme Court to, talk to us about same-sex marriages. I mean, to give us the verdict on same-sex marriages. This one for young readers, Reva and Prisha, by Charles Mahajan, is such a wonderful, inclusive, diverse book, really. Now, what is it? I mean, in effect, it's the story of two young girls, Reva and Prisha, and and the goings on in their lives. And I do know one of our jurors, the juror, who was the English juror on, who's joining us later on the show, Tejasvi, has this in his list of picks. So I won't say too much, about it, except that it's the goings on in the life of two young girls, Reva and Prisha. And like any two young girls, their minds are abuzz with all kinds of naughty, happy, interesting things. Can you drink caterpillars susu? Is one of the questions they ask. Are flowers food? Do vegetables have bones? And if stripes are slimming, can checks make you fatter? Look at the questions that two young girls have. So they are twins, of course, and they, love hanging out with each other. Now, what is lovely is that they have two mothers, Runu and Preetham, and mothers who do everything for them that parents do. So it's such in just a very, very simple way, in the story of two girls, I mean, a pair of twins and their family. Charles Mahajan does a wonderful job of showing us why an inclusive world is the best kind of world, really. I will let Tejasvi Shivanand talk about it a lot more, but it was a book very close to my heart and written and illustrated. You can see, beautiful illustrations, like really nice and funny kind of illustrations. It's in a chapter book format, not that many words, honestly. So, absolutely perfect for young readers. And of course, I have to say, beautiful, happy illustrations by Lavanya Karthik in the book. I mean, what you discover from this is joy, fun, and friendship, while you understand why inclusivity makes all the difference that we want it to. Arun saying you enjoyed reading Priya's Beauty is Missing, and Gulzar's poem on books is also an amazing one. Absolutely. My next recommendation, equally funny books. And I know, because the summer holidays have begun, there have been many requests from, parents to give us books of humor to recommend. In the last 15 days, we've been recommending lots of books of humor, essentially, because of the requests from parents who probably want their kids to be chuckling through the summer holidays. Now, the one that I really chuckled through a hell of a lot is Vibha Batra's Pinku Shergill. I mean, what a superb book this is. Pinku Shergill, pastry chef. Pinku Shergill, the quintessential Punjabi boy, whose father absolutely wants him to be everything that fathers want their boys to be. Wants him to be successful at business, wants him to be good at sport, wants him to do, everything that sort of is a male stereotypical thing. But what of dear Pinku Shergill? He loves to cook. He wants to be a pastry chef. And this book, written by Vibha Batra and illustrated by Shamika Chaves, just keeps you chuckling right through. I mean, you're laughing as you're turning every page. And, the skirmishes between Papaji and Pinku and Mamiji, of course, who's always on Pinku's side, which is just utterly lovely. And, and there are lots of stereotypes that are getting hacked at, as you read. And this is not something that we need to, sort of announce to our children. But I just feel as they read a good story, as they enjoy a good story, some of these messages, and these messages are not in your face moral messages. I think they just sow seeds in young readers and even older readers, right? To for you to know that this is perfectly okay. You can be a hatta kata Punjabi boy, but you could just love to bake more than anything else in your life. Of course, there's a young girl, most annoying girl in Pinku's life, called Nimrat, and their encounter too is utterly delightful. I do love Shamika Chaves' stylized illustrations for this book. It's really all about love and friendship, and loaded with dollops of humor. It's a fantastic book that we would recommend that children, let's say, I'd say 7 plus, 8 plus, 8 plus perhaps, could happily read. Ritvika saying, wish mainstream bookstores like Star Mark also curated books like Parag and FR do. Maybe then more parents would also learn about inclusivity. Yes, I mean, we keep discussing this at Funky Rainbow. We say, our reach is tiny. I mean, we have a small set of parents and teachers and librarians who access books through us. But, or at least that's the concept that I have in my head. But every single time we sit down, and, Muttama has been telling us to do this, which I hope we will get down to doing in our 10th year, is to put a map of India and, tie threads from all the parts of the country that we've been in or we've taken our books to. I think, okay, in 10 years, we've covered quite a large distance, really, right? And maybe, it has helped in a small way, at least, to take the word, to spread the word of good Indian children's books here, there, everywhere. I mean, I think the change that you wish to see, Ritvika, will slowly come about. If there is a demand from readers, from parents, from people who walk into mainstream retail stores and ask for these particular books, perhaps they will start curating these and adding them into their collections as well. Um, to my next recommendation, yes, and I'm keeping a watch over the time, two lovely little picture books in Hindi. I mean, I just loved Gamle Mein Jungle. And, I'm a much slower reader of Hindi. I mean, it was my second language all through school. But, I can't read it as quickly as I can read a book in English. But this one by Vinod Kumar Shukla ji, and illustrated by Chandramohan Kulkarni, was such a hatke book, if I may say so, really, right? I mean, it had such a different theme. I look at a lot of children's books, right? We get hundreds of them at FR every year, but this one had a most unusual theme. And here's what I mean, I'm not going to give all of it away. These books are all up in our collection. I'm afraid we're rebuilding our website, and that's a giant process, right? We set up the website right when we began, and then across the years started to put a lot of books. Now, there's the need to reclassify, make it all accessible to, to people who would like to buy. And there's also the need to, put in better security into the website and, get all our compliances in place. So we're in the process of rebuilding our website. And anyone, and this is a call out to all of you who are watching, if anybody wants to lend us a helping hand, please come forward and do it. I mean, we're a small team of 5 people. And we just, I know Sham's been working on the site, and I'm like, gosh, could we not have 2 extra hands to, do all the classifications so that we can put it up to make it a more professional and a site in which you can find Indian children's books more easily. So anyone willing to volunteer and help in this task, please do write to us, funkyrainbowmail@gmail.com, or on our WhatsApp number 99004 Lakshmi Vinodji recently won the Penn Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you so much for saying that to us. And I can see many people, Archana saying, yay to you, Funkies. Ritvika saying, FR is waiting. I'm waiting for the day you'll come to Kolkata. We can't wait. I spent the first 10 years of my life in Kolkata. Muttama has such strong connections with Kolkata. We can't wait. But to come there very, very quickly. And thank you, Lakshmi, for telling us about Vinod Kumar Shukla's recent Penn Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, this is really amongst one of the most interesting themes I've seen in a children's book. So it begins like this: एक दिन जितना बाहर है उसमें सब घर ही घर बन जाएं. So you see how much ever outside there is, there's homes and homes and homes that are getting filled in that bahar. And then, of course, तब हम बाहर नहीं जाएंगे, बाहर बचेगा नहीं, घर के अंदर से होकर घर घर जाएंगे. Really, I mean, what an interesting idea. Now, what is it all about? I mean, I'm just going to give you a little hint, and look at the size of this beautiful little picture book, illustrated so, it's such an abstract concept, but illustrated so wonderfully, by Chandramohan Kulkarni. What is it all about? It's, what are we taking up all the spaces? Are we taking up everything that is there to be looked at and enjoyed, and filling it up with everything that we want to fill it with? And what are the consequences of that? But so beautifully explored in this lovely little chit of a book called Gamle Mein Jungle. Of course, the title is that, if we keep hogging all the beautiful natural spaces, and doing and building things over there, ultimately only a flower pot will become a jungle. It's just lovely. I mean, this is what I meant for me this year, because I didn't have that many of the Pratham books in English to look at. It did seem that the picture books in Hindi just trump the English ones one notch above. I mean, but that's just me saying it. And anyway, this is no competition. Lovely picture books in Hindi and lovely picture books in English. We want to see them in Kannada and Tamil and Malayalam and any other language in which they can be available. And there is also this one, this other little picture book, exactly the same size, which is Jiske Paas Chali Gayi Meri Zameen. Again, Kavita Singh Kale, who has illustrated the book, and Naresh Saxena, who's written the story. It's a beautiful story, and such a thought-provoking story. I almost thought it was wordless. The first couple of pages are wordless, and just radiating joy. This is what I want to do in Bangalore today. I want to be out. I wish it rains, and I wish I could stand in the rain and get soaked like this, because it's just so hot. And I'm sure all over the country, I mean, we're complaining in Bangalore, I'm sure at some 36 or 38 degrees, but it's just blazing hot all across India. This book, its start at least was so cool and refreshing, simply because of the way Kavita's pictures exude joy. Now, of course, it's about a family, it's about a farming family, and it's about the bounties of nature that the farming family enjoys. Now, you can see what they're doing. I mean, they're having, the dad's plowing the field, the mother's helping the father, the children are building something. And so many little details. You can see little birds, you can see, mice, the beautiful trees, the birds. But ये उनकी जमीन उनके पास थी तब, जब जमीन चली गई तो क्या हुआ? You've got to, I mean, it's a at a time where, there's a farmer's crisis in India. This little picture book absolutely meant for youngest readers. And you can see these, no words. I almost thought it was wordless till we come up to another page where jab zameen chali jati hai. So, from there on, the words begin. I mean, such a great way to talk about the complexities in India, right? I mean, it's not just a single narrative that exists in India. There are so many nuances to every narrative in India, and our young readers, need to be introduced to it in fantastic, through books, in fantastic ways, where they actually, hopefully, can ponder about these things, and growing up, help create a more equitable world in our country. And in that manner, I just utterly loved Jiske Paas Chali Gayi Meri Zameen. And these books, all produced by Iktara, so inexpensive, 50 rupees, 60 rupees, any library, anyone, all waiting to go from Funky Rainbow's shelves into your collections. Whether at home or at school. You can reach us at 99004 95665. to order these books. What time is it, Cham? Are we our guests there? Can I do one or two more quick recommendations before we say hello to our guests? 11:49. Okay, so I'll just take 2-3 more minutes and make a couple of recommendations. I did have some lovely ones. Tiffin Dost, I loved that book, Tiffin Dost, really. But I'm sure Shelley is going to talk about it later in the show. I mean, later in the show. And I said show because the next book that I wanted to sort of recommend to you is Yuvan Aves's Shore Walk. I lived and worked in Madras for 14 years before coming back to Bangalore, coming back because here's where I went to school and here's where my parents live. And these shorelines that Yuvan talks about, the coastlines that he mentions in the book are so, so familiar. Everybody, who's in Madras, the beach is like the best place to be for most people who live and work in Madras. And there's just such a beauty to that coastline. But is that beauty, being preserved? Is the biodiversity of that coastline being preserved? Yuvan Aves's fantastic book, Shore Walk, published by Tulika, takes you for a walk, invites you, readers of all ages, invites you to the shore, to the coastline, and invites you to walk, taking you, showing you in so many ways that the beach is alive and how. I mean, the photographs in the book, I think, really capture the beauty of the Madras coastline. And it's true, I'm sure, of all coastlines across India. It's filled with facts. I mean, Yuvan himself doing a lot of work in natural history and conservation. I mean, he works very, very closely with coastal communities and in conservation efforts. So Shore Walk, whether it's about the olive ridley turtles, I mean, I remember, Sham and I once went on a night walk, when the Aribada, the arrival of the olive ridley turtles onto the shores of the beach to nest, to lay their eggs, and how very exciting it was. I mean, you can't see them because it's all pitch dark, and, we walk without switching lights on. But when they actually put on small lights, you see hundreds of them coming onto the shore to find a place to nest and lay their eggs. What a fantastic phenomenon it is. And how are these natural phenomena being affected by climate change, by global warming? I mean, Yuvan does a fantastic job, really, of introducing you to the rich biodiversity of our coast and also to the problems that plague it presently. Fantastic book, a must have in all school libraries for sure. And my last set of recommendations, I had a whole lot of other ones as well. I remember talking to Lakshmi when the list was announced, and I said I was so happy to see wonderful books of nonfiction, in the list this year. But we only have this much time, and we would like to hear the jurors say what they have to say about these books and what went into choosing this incredible list of books. So I'm going to close with two online books. We know that this is a concern for a lot of parents who come in every now and then, whether it's in school or whether it is in, whether it is just parents who walk into Funky Rainbow, about the online world and its overwhelming presence in our lives. I mean, we host this show online. We know what it has done for us by way of taking the word of Indian children's books here, there, everywhere. Whatever we put on online, none of our bazaars are behind a paywall. Anyone can go to our YouTube channel or to our Instagram or Facebook and watch it at any given point in time, really. And we know that, it's taken and spread the word so considerably everywhere. Yet, many dangers lurk online. I'm not sure I myself am aware of, how to, contend with that space. So parents and teachers and librarians, it's a huge concern. Now, Divya Anand, with her book, Misfit Madhu, really in a very, very humorous way, bringing out the fact that you have to become a conscientious user of social media, and you are social media or the online, or venture into the online world, with a great deal of trepidation and care and wisdom. Now, what happens in this book? Misfit Madhu, of course, why is she a misfit? She's a a class 7 student, I think. And, she spends her summer, coding, which I think a lot of kids do today, basically, right? And she's created this dream app called School Sante. Sante in Kannada means bazaar. Okay, so she's created the school app, called School Sante. Now, what happens? Of course, everybody's thrilled that she's created this app. But while she has, it's an app where kids can trade stuff, they can exchange classroom notes. I mean, they can do just about anything on that app. But there is one thing, somebody starts to sell leaked test papers on that app, and she's going to have to bring it down. And this is just at exactly at the time when she set her sights on winning some, like a big Go Tech competition for young developers. Her project is, I mean, her app is being considered, and unfortunately, these leaked papers are, now selling on that School Bazaar or School Sante. What does Madhu do? Her app has gone viral, but what of her conscience? It's such a lovely book that warns you of the dangers of being online, while taking you through the life and the times of a young seventh standard girl. What is the peer pressure that she faces? How does she resolve this challenging query? It was a lovely book, and we absolutely enjoyed reading it. Exactly in the same vein, from CBT, a collection of stories called Online Encounters and More, 12 teenage stories. So 12 stories, each one grappling, and we have contributors in this one, like Benita Sen, we have Deepa Agarwal, several Swapna Datta, several well-known writers, for young readers, each one, talking about the virtual world, about the online world, and some of them sending you warnings, some of them telling you about the popularity of this medium to reach people here, there, everywhere. Now, one of the nicest stories in this collection was this of a young girl called Komal. And what happens with Komal is that she at one time stumbles upon the fact, I think she stumbles upon some letters, and she knows that her parents as young people had exchanged tons of letters with each other. And she's really surprised that this was even before they decided that they were going to be married. They had exchanged several letters, and she was like, "Whoa, I didn't know that at all, really," right? But now, when she wants to exchange letters with a person who's online, her mother and father are just dead against it. I mean, it's a great story. I think these are contemporary situations that a lot of, adults are probably facing. So 2 books that sort of, touch upon the topic of the virtual world, which readers who are 8 plus, 9 plus will thoroughly enjoy. I'm going to check if our jurors are up here, our guests for the show. So I'm going to say hello to them over here. Sham, will you let them in, and then will you send them the Instagram invites? It's going to take us 5 minutes. We have to send Instagram invites to 2 people, folks. So bear with us, get a sip of water, and let's get into a really interesting conversation with Tejasvi Shivanand and Shaili Satyu. Yes. Good morning,
Good
Shaili.
morning.
Such a pleasure to have you up on the show. We're just saying hello, Teju. How lovely to see you here. And look at you guys, your envious books backgrounds. Like, right? That's what comes from being on a lot of juries. It's just utterly, utterly lovely. We're going to send you out the Instagram invite. So if you can accept, then, we'll start talking to our audiences. Yeah. You're sending out the invitation.
Yeah.
To whom first?
Shaili?
Shaili is Chimta Chor.
I'm already on the live video. Should I close that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the invite.
We've sent you the invite now, Shaili. And Teju? And to Teju as well.
His ID is?
His DUMAKETU. Did you get the invite, Shaili?
No.
Okay, not yet. Okay, so there's people already commenting saying, hi, Teju, I'm going to be listening. That somebody's phone needs to be muted.
Yes, here. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Should I just join the Insta Live directly?
No, just no. 1 second, Shaili. Sham's sending you the invitation again because only then you'll come up on screen. Teju, have you received the invite?
Yeah, he's on. On.
Okay, Teju's there. All right.
Great. I forget the name.
Chimta Chor. Just a second, folks. Thank you for your patience. Technology, gosh. I mean, not. I know it's made many things possible for us. Have you sent it again?
Yeah.
Yes, so it's come out to you again, Shaili. Have you received it?
Just checking.
No?
Not yet.
Not yet, is it? Okay. Okay, shall I just wait for a minute before we introduce her? Can I ask her to join the live stream?
Either way, I think maybe she should ask you.
Yeah, has it come? Okay, that's great. Yes?
We aren't online at the moment.
What? No. So maybe you should just join the live stream.
To join the live stream.
Yeah. Could you just send a request to join the live stream?
Yeah, I've joined. You'll have to.
It is unable to join. It says.
Yeah.
You who says unable to join who? Okay, you're going to have to resolve it. Yeah, she's all right. Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
I accepted it.
Yeah. Okay.
Hold on a second.
Okay, for our audience being absolutely patient about it, thank you so much. 2 people on a live stream. Yes?
Yeah.
Shaili's there.
Yep.
Yay. All right. I mean, it always feels like a stupendous achievement. Sham, there's some kind of back. Is that from somebody's phone or ours? Or
perhaps.
Ours? Okay. One of you, your phone volumes are all muted. Shaili, is it your fan?
No, it's off.
Okay, all right. Anyway, we'll get started. Noise or no noise, we will add to it then, basically. But for our friends on Instagram and everybody who's watching us on Facebook and YouTube, this is what you've been waiting for. I've been recommending some books from the PHL 2023, but these are the guys who have selected these books, and we are going to wait to, hear from them what went into creating this carefully curated list of books. Now, about Tejasvi Shivanand, I of course just refer to him as Teju, but Tejasvi Shivanand is is a library educator at the Champaka Children's Library. It's an independent bookstore in our city, Bangalore, and we just love the collection that Champaka has, both for adults, and I haven't seen their children's library recently, so I am going to drop in at one point and take a look. But with Teju helming that collection, I'm very, very sure that there's going to be fantastic books there. But he's also, he works with children and adults to explore many emotions and possibilities of books and libraries. And I think in that statement itself is contained the world of wisdom that Teju will share with us soon. He's a consultant to several schools, organizations that have libraries and work with libraries, and he helps them with their collections, with their curations, and even with library audits. He's also a faculty at the Library Educators course that is run by bookworm Goa. Shelly Satyu, of course, many of you, and Teju was part of the English jury, along with Prachi Kalra and Mini Krishnan for the Parag Honor List 2023. As for Shelly Satyu, we all know that Shelley and Gillo are just synonymous with each other. The Gillo repertoire, I mean, the repertory, we absolutely have seen several books that many Indian children's books that have been made into plays by Gillo. She is the artistic director of the Gillo Repertory Theatre. It's a Mumbai-based organization that works with young audiences, taking theatre to young audiences. Now, over the past 2 decades, she has worked closely with arts organizations and educational institutes across India with a focus on education and the arts. And the thing with, and in fact, when she sent me her bio, I was amazed to see that she has staged over 600 performances, reaching over 110,000 children across the country. Some of the more, sorry?
The Instagram went off, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think the Instagram live has gone off, is it? So what do we need to do? I'm sorry. We're going to send you the invitations out again. What happened from our end?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, we're going to send you those invitations again on Instagram, but I'm going to continue to introduce them to our audience and get started with the questions. Shaili has written several plays in English and Hindi, including Kyun Kyun Ladki, Mahashweta Devi's famous YY Girl, Mr. Gigi Boy and the Birds, which I can't wait to watch at some point, keeping fingers crossed, hoping it'll come back again. There's Gulabo or Parizad as well. And she is a recipient of the Ustad Bismillah Khan Award from the Sangeet Natak Academy for her work. Now, are they back on our live Insta stream?
Yes, Teju's almost back.
Teju's there?
Just coming.
Okay.
Yes.
Shelly, do you want to ask to join our live stream? So there is some extra noise that people are complaining about. Shelly, have you sent a request?
It should be online in about 2 seconds.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that noise has gone off completely now.
Shall we come now? 1 second. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, she's back.
Okay, super. Before the tech thing plays havoc again, I'm going to get started with my first question for both of you. What criteria did you really use to choose the Parag Honor List books in 2023? I mean, was it writing style and language, the craft of storytelling, the themes that the book dealt with, or something that brought all of this together? Teju, you first. Yes.
All right. So I think it was a bit of all of those. I think it had to come together in a book. In some books, something would work very well, but some other element perhaps was not as good. So when you have to go through, say something like 200 books, and arrive at a short list that would, that we had to all agree. 3 of us had to sit together and agree to, and that final list of 31 meant that each one had to meet all those criteria in some way. But yeah, so that's how I guess it would work. And also there's another thing that you were looking at a list for different age groups.
That's right.
So over 30 books, there were some for different age groups as well. So you wanted to see that from that year's list of published books, something for younger children, something for middle school, and then from some from older children as well. So I think what you saw as well, in terms of what you were recommending, there was a range of those as well. Yeah. So
Yes, I can well
I'll
imagine. What about you? Sorry. Go ahead, Teju.
no, that's it. I mean, I'm sure Shelly also has.
Yes. Shelley, tell us what did you know? How did you choose? And in fact, I forgot to mention to our audience that your co-jurors were Arun Kamalji and Gurbachan Singh ji, who actually came on the PHL Bazaar last year, to speak with us about how he chose the books that he did. But please go ahead and tell us what went into choosing these books, Shelley.
Yeah. I think the starting point was this very detailed document that was given to us from the Parag team on general criteria for selection and what is
Uh-huh.
their general approach behind the honor list, so that everybody comes on the same page in terms of age groups, themes, and styles of writing, um, approaches to certain themes in books for children, and a few sort of no-nos in terms of handling of certain subjects or
Nice.
unresolved sort of, when there are taboo topics, and if they're unresolved, there were a lot of guidelines. I wouldn't say it was a rule book, but it was a very helpful guideline, which
Absolutely.
interestingly was not given to us. It was presented to us to review and refresh before we used it. So I think in that sense, the whole process was very inclusive from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't feel like someone else had made a guideline document which you had to just follow, you know. So
Wonderful
it
point.
was organic as well in that sense. Coming to how I approached the selection, because this was my first time with the Parag Honor List. I've not been on a jury for children's books or any books before.
Ah.
So, and I was working with Gurbachan ji and Arun Kamalji, who are very experienced in this field. It was intimidating for me in the beginning, but I think it was more to do with the shortlist that was placed in front of us. We took it from there rather than having a pre-decided that we want to look at these themes or this should be the balance, and then we will look for those books. We went from the books, and then what we all commonly liked was then slotted. Of course, by the end of it, we did try to have sufficient titles in the different age groups,
Mm-hmm.
as well as sufficient titles across poetry, non-fiction, fiction, kind of in terms of the genre. So that
That's
we
right.
tried, but yeah, some books they just go on everybody's yes list within like 30
Mhm.
seconds, and some
Yeah.
take 3 hours to discuss. So yeah, all that happened, as
Yeah.
does.
As does. I mean, it's the hardest job in the world to get three people to agree on what are good books to read by an audience that is removed from you in terms of age,
But
essentially, right?
but also Vidya, I think I found that the collegial spirit that the group had was very important in the jury. That we
That's
could,
right.
although each of us were very different in terms of our experience or what we brought to the table, and our own lenses that we had, uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that we had honed over the years, based on what we.
Absolutely.
And along with the Parags, what Shaili described as that list, right? Initial screening. Okay, is there a lot of stereotypes or not in this book? You look for that, the quality of writing, and so on. But at the same time, each one of us coming together and talking and listening really helped. That we were personalities that kind of listened and spoke and discussed. That was
Mm-hmm.
critical, actually, I think. Um,
That's right.
Otherwise, this list wouldn't have come out.
That's right. I mean, I can imagine 250 books, and you finally had 31 in English and 21 in Hindi. It's a monumental job, honestly, and it's been so well done. When I started the show, I was saying that as an independent bookseller, it does a lot for us to get these lists. I mean, it's not possible for us to be, aware of the publishers who are publishing in Hindi, for instance, all across the country. So when somebody vets it for us, see, that's important. We don't want books with stereotypes or any of those things, with gender stereotypes or with different kinds of problematic things coming into our collection. And when you vet it as jurors, we just confidently get it into our collection without having to, and how we may not be able to access these books ourselves if the Parag Honor List didn't open them out to us. So really well done it is. And completely concur with you about making your points heard in a jury, but also hearing what other people say. I've been part of jury processes earlier, and in the case where it doesn't work, it's very, very difficult to finally arrive at a good list. So Teju, I mean, this is a question that we've grappled with across the years, really, right? Like, what really constitutes a good children's book? I mean, is it one that brings writing? I know it's very hard to give answers, so I've just decided that various people will give us different answers, and we'll put down those points for ourselves and use them as guidelines, essentially, right? How do you, I mean, is it one that adults want to recommend to children? Is it something that children like reading and want to read over and over again? Is it a bestseller? Is it not a bestseller? Your thoughts on it, really.
Yeah. So I think as someone who's worked with children over many years, my first instinct is to see, okay, what do children like? Give the book to the child and ask the child how they look. Because clearly as an adult, my own conditioning over the years has kind of tuned me to look at books in a particular way. But each child looks at it afresh and looks at it differently. So I think really working with children helps me. And even as part of this process, I did share some books on which I was not clear about, and I heard from children. And then it helped me kind of gain some insights which I didn't have myself. But at the same time, I think there may be some elements of this book that a child may not pick up. And I feel those, I look there as, okay, as an educator, what would I like and what would I not like? And this is not from the perspective of censorship or say, okay, I don't want a child to read something which has sexual content in it or so on. That's not the perspective. But if there has access to this, is the child learning something with sensitivity? Is something written there with thoughtfulness, with keeping in mind that you're trying to represent voices that may not be your own experience sometimes. So there are many angles that you say that comes into picture when you look at writing. And of course, with illustrations, you have similar criteria for looking at illustrations. And because younger children, or like all of us, are very visual, and we kind of gravitate towards images and pick out a lot of things that are set in images. So how do you look at the images and how they work with the text or not is also important. So I'm just giving you like glimpses of what it is. Like you said, it's given the confines of what we can do in this short period. These are some criteria. But I'm sure there are more, and I'm sure Shelley will also add to this.
Very, very good starting point anyway. What is it that the child has enjoyed to read? What is it that the child has gravitated to on their own, basically, right? That is such a good starting point, actually. There are a couple of comments coming up. Joanne saying, hi, Teju. I'm going to be listening but not commenting because I'm driving. I just love it that people are on the road and listening to the Buzzaar. It makes us feel like, wow, this is the world that we want to be in. Arun G, who's a librarian from Hyderabad, saying he's delighted to listen to the two of you. Muttama saying that she's delighted to, have you on the show. And Prabha Tendulkar saying, hi, Teju, it's nice to see you after a long time. And hi, Vidya as well. She's the head of the DSCRT, the librarian at the DSCRT here in Karnataka. But Charlie, I wanted to ask you, so, in continuation with the question to Teju, is that literature, it should give us reading pleasure for sure, right? I mean, at least it should give us pleasure in some way as readers. But when we say good literature, should it sort of go a little bit beyond? Should it help us reflect on life, on ourselves, on the world around us? What do you say, Shelley?
I think literature for children definitely. I know the word that is used these days, engaging, is something which people have now developed an allergy to. But then fun is too light a word. But I think
Yes,
it should keep you with the book.
right.
The book should be able to stay with you even when you shut it. I mean, how do you manage that? And I think there's no such thing as a good children's book. It's about like the honor list is not a competition, but it's an honor list. I think a similar approach where you have a curated list that you give to children. Some will find them good and some will not. So it's a very personal choice, and I think having the space for choice, children having the space for choice is very important.
Absolutely.
And if children want to disagree with the jurors of the PHL, then that they have a right to do that. So I think I would say that. But of course, like Teju said, that there are certain parameters that we look at when we select. And I think most of the jurors regularly working with children in different ways. So we're all invested in children's lives. We live in that environment of the young world. So if I can say it in Hindi, थोड़ा सा सुर मिल जाता है बच्चों से. So you have a sense of what they will connect with. And I think that's the expertise. It's not tangible, but that's the expertise. And it's also, as individuals, when you're looking at a book, if it doesn't interest me and I'm going to say, oh, this is very interesting for children but not for me, then there's no point to this exercise.
That's right.
Because uh, if I don't enjoy the book, then why should I tell a child, you read this,
Yeah.
this is very good for you? It's like you give children things to eat which you don't want to eat, or you tell them don't eat this and that, but you're going out and eating the junk food. So I think that double
Absolutely.
standard is a problem.
It's
So I would
easily
just
sussed
say
out.
that adults also should be able to connect and enjoy books, and we do. I am sure all the listeners today in this bazaar do not really differentiate between children's books and adults books. So they're books,
Yes.
just written and illustrated differently. That's all.
Absolutely. Very, very well said. Some wonderful takeaways from there. This is not a competition. We are putting out a curated collection of books, 31 in English and 21. Although when I looked at it this time, and what happened was we didn't have too many of the Pratham picture books in our collection. They were not in print, essentially. And now they've come back. So I know we'll reorder and get them. But I was delighted to see the Hindi. So we didn't have that many picture books in the English category if the Pratham ones were taken out. And then I was seeing these lovely ones from Iktara that were coming out in the Hindi one, and I felt, hey, it looked like the Hindi picture books have trumped the English ones this time round. But that's just a bookseller's perspective. No one's trumped anything at all, like, right? It's just lovely that we have great picture books in Hindi and in English. So you're right, it's no competition. And, the best books, the best children's books are best read by adults as well. Why you must read picture books even when you're old and wise, said Catherine Rundle, basically, right? And that's exactly what you said, Shelley. Lovely response.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
sure. Tell us, Teju. Yeah.
I just want to give you an example of just to the extent what Shaili was saying. Like this is with
Sure.
this book is part of the list. Pinku Chef, Pastry Chef. It's a very sweet book. I mean, it's a lot of fun to read, but at the same time, it's looking at this young boy from a very masculine society or family that's wanting to experiment, and you're working with. I mean, this is a book for young people. Even if you look at the text inside, it's also done in
Yes.
a very fun way.
Yes.
So when we look at a good children's book, it can be fun, it can be great, it can be yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm trying to also say, that all is the list that we have put together is not a list of profound books. It's
Yes,
not books that are meant for transforming childhoods or children or anything like
that's
that.
right.
It's a book like Shaili said. It's a beginning. So for anybody, whether it's for children, for parents, you use this as a starting point. You read the books, enjoy them, right?
Absolutely.
And it's just, and like you said, you could take this recommendation right in the beginning, but I wouldn't. I would still recommend that you use it as a start. Still read them before you put them on shelf. Enjoy them yourself.
Very, very well said. Absolutely. Preeti Ramchandran saying, well said, to, I think, in response to what the two of you said earlier, there are some good parenting tips as well. Sham, you need to put up some of the thing. They've gone away up past my thing. Arun saying, well said, and that he reads books without age barrier, without age barrier at all. And Asha Nehemiah, such a pleasure to have you here at the Buzzaar today. So many good points raised by Shaili and Teju. Such a good topic for the Buzzaar. There was a question that Archana Atri asked. Before you put it up, Sham, I'll get on to my next question, and then we will ask them that one. So that the point that you made actually, Teju, of saying that these are not lofty books. These are not like these are not like sort of only the creme de la creme of the books. They are books that are great conversation starters with children on whatever you want to talk to them about, or even not, just for them to read, essentially, right? So do you think at the moment in India we are bringing out books that are reflective of and relevant to contemporary realities in India?
Yeah, so I could take a couple of books from the list to kind of respond to this. So one book is, for example, this picture book that you saw, The Theatre of Ghosts. It's a young,
Yes,
and it's a wordless book, right?
that's right.
The context for this book is very, very rural. And
That's
you
right.
look at it and see it, and it's in the back written, okay, it's from Majuli. And
That's
even if you
right.
haven't been to Majuli, you can see how the landscape is brought out in this, and then uh, and the cultural context is very much in Majuli. But anyone reading from somewhere can relate to the children, the fear that is there, fear of the dark, moving through the dark, right? It's very much relatable to children everywhere. So I can see that this is an example at a very simple level how it's universal and relatable, that is there in a book like this. Another example is if you look at Tipu Sultan of the Sivaliks. This is for an older group of children.
Yes. What a
It's
wonderful
a
book.
non-fiction chapter book, and here you see a description of a very close relationship of a researcher with elephants, but in their landscape. So you're seeing a lot of animal-human interactions, including conflict as part of it. It's very much part of everyday life. And so there you see this is universal across India. You see like animal, let's say leopard human conflict, leopard human interactions, leopard animal, say wild boar in another case, tiger in another case, and so on. So you see, I gave you these two examples just as
Yeah.
examples of a spectrum of books that kind of relate very much to children's lives and realities, for sure. And that's only an element of what has gone into the selection.
That's right. That's right. I mean, besides sort of setting it, like you said, Majoli there, and then, Christy Amritraj writing about elephants over here. Very, very, so do you think we have enough of these books coming out at the moment? I mean, you've actually examined 250 of them between jury in Hindi and in English, right? Do we have enough of these coming out? Of course, there's always space for more. I know, we're the most populous country, I mean, the nation in the world now, like really, right? So no, any number of extra books is always welcome. But do you really think that we have enough of these at the moment?
Shelly, would you like to respond? I'll come.
So I think when you say 250 books, these are not all books published for children
That's
in
right.
India in the last 12 months. So just to make that clear, these are
That's
books
right.
that have been submitted by publishers for consideration for the Parag honor
On the
list.
list, yes.
So it's not like the Parag team goes and buys every single book that's published for children, and then we sit and look at that. I mean, that's an impossible task. So there are many more books that are being published. I would say we're doing very little in India. Uh, what you see here is not even, just a tip or a flake of the iceberg, because for every book that you have on the PHL, I would say there are more than 1,000 badly published books in India.
That's right. That's right.
Without naming names, and it's not, there are enough, in the sense there are a lot of good publishers with good writers, illustrators, all of that is happening, but the volume is just too little.
That's right.
So we have some lovely books coming out every year, but it's still not enough.
That's right.
And a lot of the books that are going into school libraries and into programs where larger number of children are being reached are not the kind of books that are on the PHL.
So well
So
said.
it's all very warped. We can be sitting on our, in our AC rooms with our laptops and video chats and going gaga about certain books and buying them and reading them. But I think how many of these books are actually reaching that many children? Because the distribution is all very difficult to manage for publishers. You are, somewhere in between library and bookstore and sort of activist and advocacy and funky rainbow. So it feels like a monumental task, and
Yes.
we're all little drops in I don't know which big ocean.
Yeah.
So I think a lot more is needed, but then a lot has happened in the last, say, 10 years, which gives us hope. But whatever has happened needs to happen, I don't know how many fold. Only then we'll have a larger number of, good quality books in multiple languages across the country, reaching as many more children as possible. Because a lot of the book buying is just based on the politics of tenders, and I don't know, sometimes you just feel like all this exercise is useless, because ultimately they buy all the rubbish books in the schools because they get a bigger cut. So I know this is not the discussion today, but that's the reason.
No, we.
Actually the point, in the
Yeah.
sense that from one perspective, if you look at it, librarians and teachers are have not looked at these books carefully. I'm not saying all of them, but a significant number are not engaging with these books, are not engaging with different dimensions of these books on one side. On the other side, the processes are ossified when it comes to procurement, but also in terms of production. Say from the publisher side, while there are progressive children's publishers today, who are kind of working with it, there are many publishers who look at it only as a business model of selling. So
Absolutely.
if we sell more mythology or whatever is they think is the trend, and you produce more of those and put it out. And when within the children's books, which is itself a tiny sliver of the tiny sliver of English publishing, or for that matter, other regional level language publishing, what you put out is determined by some assumptions that you have of what will be bought. And so therefore, if parents they think, the publishers think parents will buy general knowledge books and so on, they will be more focused on that. Or say books with moral endings and so on. That would become the focus of production. And that's what we see as well. And that's what we see reflected in libraries and what gets put. So they require the multiple pronged approach to kind of understand this and deal with it. And in a way, Parag, I feel, is also trying to do that from different things, supporting children's book production, supporting library networks, giving recognitions through producing this of this kind. So you need that kind of approach, but also you need to work with the publishers more than what is happening today. It's not enough to have one or two enlightened publishers who are producing a few books, but it requires a transformation at a much larger scale.
Yeah, I mean, I could completely in concurrence, with you. For the first 5 years that we did what we did, where we popped up with different, with a collection of Indian children's books in different schools for their PTMs, or, like a lake carnival or some event, people would absolutely tell us that we were mad. How come we don't have the bestsellers? I'm like, what bestsellers are you talking about? These are ours. These are the books that we're bringing to you, like, right? And so I remember Sham came out. He said, let's just put out like a bestseller list every month. I mean, it may have sold 25 copies, but so what? It's our bestseller, really, really, right? And we've been advised by many publishers themselves who give us, Indian books. You're there, you're inside a school. Abhi aap, just put the, extra foreign ones in as well, and you will see the cash registers ringing at your end, essentially. And it's a giant kind of system. We just stuck to our guns and we've just done it. I don't know whether it's, I've always believed there's just a very thin dividing line between being very intelligent and being very foolish. I'm not sure where we are in that spectrum
You
at the
like,
moment.
well, you like,
And also, but I have to say this: for 3 years, we've been hosting this Parag Honor List show, online. And I have to say, last year, and I started the show with this, saying that we have schools who come to us now, and these are not just urban elite schools. We work with schools in smaller towns. We work, with schools in rural districts, and they've come and they've said, "Can we have the Parag Honor List books?" I mean, there's some recognition because many of you have worked in that area. And we had one school that came to us for the first time in 10 years. We've heard this. Can you do a pop-up of only Hindi books? I've never had this question in 10 years. So there is a small change, but there's a lot that needs to be done, definitely, for all stakeholders to sort of come together and not have to say this 10 years later, like 10 years down the line. We should not have to be saying the same thing over and over again. Gosh, I'm sure there are several comments and questions that have gone past, and I haven't even sort of looked at them. Sham, will you kind of put them up? But Shaili, one of the questions that I wanted to, okay, he's put up Archana's question, so let me ask you that one. What do you think about books that need an adult to read and understand the nuances, subtext in them? I think with Pooh, with Vibhuti Cat, Kanna Panna, and some others, this was essential. Both of you can take that one, no problem at all.
Tejas, you can take that. I haven't read all those books.
yeah.
All right.
So, if you look at the books that you've raised, Archana, I think my instinct and my experience of working with children is let the children read, but be present as an adult. Not all, I mean, that's one way of looking at it. If you're working with individual children, the books are part of a library collection or a home collection. Let the child read and you be present as an adult. You know those books are like that. But at the same time, you could also, as an adult, actively choose the book to read with the child. And then open out, have a discussion as you go along. Ask questions in an open-ended manner. Or you could do it as a structured activity in a library as a librarian. Choose it for a read aloud if the book is suitable for that. And then open it out after the read aloud for a discussion, and then do an activity where you allow the child to express their response to it, not necessarily through verbal response, but also through writing, through art, through other ways of
Lovely.
create something around it, which is a response to the reading of that book. So I think if we as adults being present there, support the child in different ways depending on the child, depending on the context, I think that's what you can do. But I don't have a single answer, because there is not one answer. There are a series of answers for different contexts and different books and different children.
Right. I mean, that's a very, very good response. There's no one response that can be given to the fact that what of these books. You have to gauge the reader. You have to gauge what your reader needs, I think, right, and be there in that manner for the young reader. There have been several comments that have sort of come up, CA Pooja Ailavadi saying that, and even Arunji saying that he recommends many books in school, but, when he tells parents, the parents can hardly find them in bookshops in the city. Arun is in Hyderabad. And, what are we to do to issues like that? And Pooja Ailavadi also saying that, when can these books become mass market? Like, right, they are not some elite, it's not like an elite, preserve, that these books are only accessible to those of us who know these questions, essentially, right? And so they have been proposing, maybe once the show is done, y'all can, go back and see some of the comments, which are quite long for me to sort of call out over here. But I can see that many of them are pointing to the fact that why is there this big gap between what we are saying and what actually reaches children out there. And the answer, perhaps, like Teju said and Shelley said too, is that initiatives like the Parag Honor List 2023 hopefully doing what it takes to bridge this gap in some way, or in whatever small way that it is getting done, right? In that context, actually, I wanted to ask you, as an independent bookseller, we're delighted to get this list in Hindi as well. And we do stock books in Kannada and Tamil and Telugu and Malayalam from the few publishers that actually bring it out, or in the case where we know that the books are of a reasonably good quality. Why do you think it's important, Shelley, to raise readers who read multilingually? I think that's India's gift, honestly, like, right? Why do you think it's important? And since there are many parents and teachers and librarians watching, why do you think it's important to do this?
I think reading in or just knowing multiple languages is a great strength. And in India, south of the Vindhyas, this happens by default. We all learn 3 languages, not so much in North India, but they only learn 2 languages maximum, mostly. So let's not get into the 3 language debate. But those who know what I'm saying. I think with a lot of most of the listeners here are from a more English speaking background, in terms of the kind of schools they work in, or the schools that their children go to in learning in English, but with a strong mother tongue and local language input. I'm not saying that's not there, but I think more and more today, with everything being so connected, I think language, of course, with language politics becoming so much more part of adult lives. But I think at a level of children, I think it is more about language being part of your developing identity. And I know that a lot of children now are moving away from their mother tongue. They are moving away from the scripts. So talking about Hindi, there are a lot of children who now only know Hindi when they grow up as adults in Roman script. They don't know Hindi in Devanagari at all.
That's right.
And I think that's a great loss, because that's one part of who we are, which is just not there anymore for some people as they grow up. So I think it's like it's like you lose one part of yourself. As far as reading and listening to stories in languages other than English, I think, of course, the whole cultural aspect is there. But I also think that fundamental sort of, knowledge and development of your aesthetics, through the language that you speak at home, all of that is very interconnected. And more more and more schooling is in the English medium. That's a fact. That's a reality. It's an aspiration. We respect that. But not at the cost of not learning Kannada or Malayalam or Bangla or Marathi, Hindi, whatever the language may be. So I think this whole idea and this aspiration of replacing your own language with English is, has really messed up. And a lot of, children of today are shortchanged between various languages. And I think just providing more opportunities to engage with the spoken, written, and heard format of various languages, so that they're still a part of a child's life. You know, nobody's saying that, no, you remove your child from English medium, put them in
Yeah,
local language.
absolutely.
Nobody's saying
Yeah.
that. Everything becomes binary when it
I
comes to
know it's this or that.
so I think it's about having a much more inclusive learning environment and a childhood environment. Um, and a lot of this, I feel, because I know there are a lot of parents, as part of Funky Rainbow Network. I think the whole idea that we are reading a children's book for children, or buying a book for children, there are a lot of evolved parents who are now looking at it as a shared experience. Children go to the bookshops to choose the books themselves with parents.
Yes,
So I think those kind of things, need to happen much more.
that's
So,
right.
where children are involved, they have a little more agency in accessing the books, in reading, not necessarily only what their parents or teachers or librarians think they should. So, I think children reading books that their parents will never read is also important. Uh, Otherwise, we're
Yes,
just in the same, you know,
we can
closed
vouch
space.
for that.
So
We've
it's
read.
there are a lot of things that a parent or an educator can do. It's for them to find their path, and I think the honor list does fills that one little space of um, having a curated list, which I don't think was there before in India.
That's right. Yeah.
I've been buying books for children for now 20 years, and it's always a struggle. And I think one of the questions which came in was, parents say they just are not able to find the books,
That's right.
which is also another problem, because a lot of the kind of, say, the work that you do, or even the bookshops which are selling children's books, the
Yeah,
kind
for
of books that
libraries
are on
and
the
things like
Parag
that.
on the list,
Mhm.
are few and far between, and they are niche. There are some wonderful book clubs now, which a lot of parents are running, and I think hats off to them for the kind of work that they're doing, and so it's very helpful. Where you have community libraries, you have book clubs who are bringing in these. So, like Teju said, we need a multi-pronged approach for things to evolve even further, and we've come a long way in the last 2 decades,
Definitely.
and I think it's only going to be better. Uh,
Yes.
it's not only about cribbing today. It's also about celebrating the books that are on the PHL,
Yes.
and
I mean,
hoping that the Parag team is going to add more languages to the honor list. I know it's a
yes.
Herculean
Yes.
task, but we
Yes.
can पूछने में क्या जाता है, so
Yeah.
so I'm sure it will happen in time, considering the whole philosophy and approach of the PHL. There's no other way. The way forward is to have more languages.
That's right. Yes, Teju. Please,
So
please. I know you wanted to
part
add.
of the list, what we have done is with the English list particularly is made recommendations of translations as well in other
That's
languages,
right.
some of the languages. So if you can see, there's a small tab next to each book, and we have looked at the translations, looked at various elements of quality and so on, and then we have recommended them in some languages. Of course, this was just a process that was started. I'm sure it will be a bigger part of the process as we go along as well. But I agree completely with Shelley that we need independent lists for other languages as well. And that would, I think, hopefully stir the demand in some way for greater involvement of publishers, seeing that there's a market, there's a demand for these books, or maybe even hopefully creating that demand through
Yes.
libraries
Yes.
and giving exposure to these books to parents. So I feel that yes, we have all of that to do.
That's right. A good demand going out there. I know many people from the Parag team are watching. So, yes, the next language, it's not an easy job, but पूछने में क्या जाता है, like Muttama says, that's her philosophy. अंत में you'll only say no, but maybe you won't say no at all. And the importance of translations. Ritvika Roy, who joined us from Jadavpur University, was saying that she went to a independent bookstore in Calcutta, and she was delighted to see, I think, Tulika's translations of books in Bengali. I mean, the English books being translated into Bengali. So there is more representation in these books as well. So yes, in the last 2 decades, many things happening, but it really does need to reach a mass. Like there's a lot of readers out there that these books need to find still, and if we all come together, that's when it's going to happen. I know we're very, very short of time. I think we've overshot in any case, but isn't that the part of all these book conversations? I'm going to ask you, perhaps, what is the toughest question for any jury member to answer? 3 favorites from your lists. I mean, if you could just tell us about 3 of your favorites, from the English list, and you, Shelley, from the Hindi list. And I know if you want to kill me afterwards, it's fine.
No. I think we will be in that position. I think, I will start with by saying that all 31 books we've included them because we wanted them to be part of it.
Absolutely.
So, having said that, as individually you're also drawn to it. Each of the books that you showed, Vidya, earlier, like Yuvan's book, for example, it was wonderful because it was not just about looking at diversity, but also whose perspective is being presented.
That's right.
Is in the fisher folk. It's their lives that are coming in. It's not some stranger coming in and talking about it. What a wonderful perspective to highlight. So, like, I have those. Each one of those books has something like that. But personally, since you asked 3, and numbers means all these issues, I will say 3. So one of them is this.
Lovely book.
Reva and Trisha, and it's very, very close to me because I love Charles Mahajan's books in the way they write and just understand the child's mind. They're able to just get into the child's mind in a way that is not very easy. And the way some children's authors do it, I'm just quite amazed. And Charles is one of them. I think the fact that there are 2 women who are raising 2 twins in this book is, again, given the context of same-sex marriage that is going on today.
That is going on now, yes.
Very, very contemporary and relevant here. Of course, there are complexities of that debate, but this book is a great starting point to talk about parenting, co-parenting of LGBTQ parents, the experience of that, and from the child's perspective, what it's like.
That's right. Wonderful.
Fantastic. I love this book. Then another one which I found quite unusual, and personally, I think this is a landmark in Indian publishing, is In the Land Where Beetles Rule.
Suniti Namjoshi.
Yeah, Suniti Namjoshi and Krishna Bal Shenoy's illustrations. It's a poem. Okay, very fair writing, and there are illustrations here. And it's a dystopian world that's being shown. It's quite frightening in times, and if you look at it, it's not a world that you would recognize in some ways, but the landmarks and the the pipes, birds, plants, water. This is from today's world.
That's right.
But then it's not also today's world. So it's a very different futuristic world, dystopian, very speculative world, but relatable to, say, the kind of climate change that we are seeing today. So I feel in a fantastic book, even in terms of conceptualization, the illustrations, not many of its kind for children today.
Absolutely.
And finally, I think from a different perspective,
Joku.
So there's this Joku who's a fierce monster and is a very native monster, not like the monsters that you used to thinking of. This is very a local idea that you're trying to bring out in a book. Joku is a jokini, and I didn't know of jokinis before I
Red Joku.
And then I tried to research and find out who a Jokin is. But then it was also that Joku is, while being very fearsome, is also lonely and looking for a friend. I mean, there are so many layers to this book. And one of the questions that comes to my mind is what is the place of like traditional stories or versions of those in our books?
That's
Right?
right.
Because we have one version of that. We want Panchatantra, we want Jataka tales here. But there are so
Mhm.
many stories, hundreds and thousands of them across the country. How are we making it possible to be part of book collections and bringing them to children? So this is only one of the many angles why this book is so wonderful. So I feel these are three quick favorites and why I like them. So
Lovely.
I'll pause now.
Lovely choices. Lovely choices, Teju. Very, very nice choices. Shaili, what about you? I put away some of my recommendations as soon as I saw your collection, saying let's not repeat books. But Reva and Prisha is a real favorite at Funky Rainbow too. But go ahead, Shaili. Tell us about.
Yeah, so I've changed my top three list, I think 5 times already, but I'll go with what I sent to you on email. I was like, no, no, how can I not talk about the other book? But there were three books which stood out for me more than the others. The others also I really liked, but since you only gave us chance to choose three, so
I know.
one was Tiffin Dost, which is a very sort of naughty take on
Yeah.
lunch recess,
Yes.
and but I really liked the subtext in the poem and the way it has been illustrated, and the whole thing of going to school um, as a community activity where you discover new people, and then how food becomes such an important part of connecting people and also dividing people. But the book mostly talks about connecting people, so you
Connect.
at least look at food as something which connects and not something that divides, which is what we see in the world around us right now. So I thought that was really very sensitively put into this illustrated poetry poem book. The second was Amma, which I don't have.
Yeah.
I mean, the books are somewhere there.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, there's
which
something.
I liked for the very raw illustrations, because a lot of illustrated books, illustration styles for children are predictable, can be predictable, and I liked that this wasn't.
Mm,
Even in the kind of scale and perspective that was used, I thought it was very interesting. The line work was very unique, very strong style, and a lot of small illustrated books. We say like things should be simple, clear, but this book has, it looks chaotic, but it has a lot of layering. So it's
that's
not
right.
it's not crowded, but it's busy. So
Yes.
I think as a visual, sort of exposure, the book has a lot to give, and that's why I really liked Amma, because, as you said earlier, illustrated books in Hindi, which you
Yes.
really like and want to have in a collection, are rare. So
That's
because this was a Hindi illustrated book of this kind, I chose this because I haven't come across such strong visual design in a Hindi book in a very long time.
super.
Though it's just black, red, and on white, but
Yes, but it's very stunning.
yeah. And Tisra Dost is another book that I don't know if liked would be the word, but it had an impact on me, and bit of it made me uncomfortable, and that's why now
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Mm,
I think I need to read it another two, 3 times. You know, and that's what I now when I reflect on the books, I feel something that made me think um, is something that I would put on this list of three.
super, super choices. I mean, different those. I love the fact that there was vegetarian and non-vegetarian food in that. He's eyeing somebody's march. He's eyeing somebody's roti. That little boy. So many schools have these rules now. Like, right, you can do this, you cannot do this. I mean, I'm sure there are reasons, but I really feel that they are no reasons, honestly. Like, right? And this one, Amma, yeah, maybe not the best thing to say publicly, but Amma, apparently spun off from a line in Marquez's, in one of Marquez's stories, apparently, Gabriel Garcia Marquez's story, where there's this little boy who gets lost in the fair and he's looking for his Amma and then goes up to a cop and says, have you seen a lady who should have a son like me?
Yeah.
You help me. And I thought it was just so, and Kavita Singh Kale has done such a lovely job of illustrating that book, but lovely, lovely choices. So just to close the conversation we've gotten into people's lunchtime, I'm sure, and I know Shaili is working on a production. I'm sure Teju has many things to do. What do you think ultimately, if you had to, say it to parents and teachers and librarians? And in fact, Prabha made a very good point earlier, which I couldn't call out. As I said, she's the chief librarian of the DSERT in Karnataka here. She says librarians should also know of vendors who can bring these books into the collection. The DSERT reaches books to several schools in Karnataka, essentially, right? And the librarians, when they're sourcing for DSERT, should know of vendors who can supply these books. I'm very glad to tell you that we are one of the vendors for a librarian like Prabha who has identified us. But it's a very, very, good point in that chain, that, the chain has to be complete for books to really reach here, there, everywhere. So what in conclusion, why is an honor list like the Parag's, list 21, 22, and 23? How can parents, teachers, and librarians benefit from it? In just a short sort of summarizing statement, if it's possible. Shaili, Teju, either of you.
So one thing is just, it's a starting point. I think there are 250 books that we published, and we put together a book of list of 31. We have and it's based on what publishers have submitted. So there are books that are out of this. And I know that some books just didn't make the dates didn't work. So there was that I who could have gone into it, but didn't make it because of the date. So there are some constraints in it. So it's not complete, it's not the last, it's the starting point for parents to start looking at books closely. Why was this put together in this week? Can you see something that's cutting across in terms of different dimensions of what good books are? I mean, I think that can only be a quality that you can hone as you go along, as you read more. And you'll have to cultivate your relationship with these books to kind of grow there. I think the Paragon list does that for across children, parents, and teachers, librarians, everybody. So to offer a good starting point for either to read or to choose books for your library, choose books to read with your children, choose books for your classroom, an activity that you want to do. All that is possible with this. So my way of saying it, start here and then explore and find out and discover. There's a huge world out there.
There's whole ocean. Shaili, what about you?
Yeah, I would say it's going to be very helpful, the Paragon list, for, like Teju said, everybody who's involved in books for children, all the decision makers who are, choosing the books in children's spaces, homes, libraries, schools, in all these places, because it's always difficult to decide what to buy, because the access to several good books is not there. So how do parents know? And then again, a lot of young parents and young teachers and young vendors who don't have that much experience of the historically what has happened in children's literature over the last 30-40 years in India. So reference points are not there. So if somebody is new to this whole space of buying books for children, this is a great help. It's a great starting point, like Teju said. And most of the books, I would say all the books on this list, if you buy, you won't go wrong. You won't regret having them in your library. is what
Yeah.
I would say. Because for a lot of people, budgets are a constraint, and then you can't do a hit and miss every time and say, I'll buy 10 books and maybe 2 will be what I like, and then 8 I'll give away,
Yeah.
things like that. Everybody can't afford that. And so I think for those who buy less books in a year, this list would be very helpful. And those who are unable to find books in the bookshops around them to browse through, it would be very helpful for them. Um, it's like, not to give any brand any position here, but like people go on Amazon deals and they're like, oh, you can't go wrong because this is what I'll buy. So you can count it like that. The PHL is like, it's um, without doubt some of the good books that have come out in the last 12 months, and put together by people who know books. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's been a delightful session. Lots of learnings, actually. This is the only way the book space is going to get better and better and better. Lots of wise words shared, lots to think about. And it's just, such a pleasure that Tejasvi, I mean, for us curators from other independent bookstores are, they are the people whose voices, they are the oracles that we want to listen to. Otherwise, I'm sure you agree, the world of bookselling is sometimes so tiny. You're just in your own ivory tower, like, right, trying to choose and do. But when we hear what you say, when we hear what Shelley says, it's great, way to go forward for all of us. I'm sure there's several thank yous that have come up. Prabha again saying, I got very good input about these honor book lists, and I will make sure that it goes into the government schools in Karnataka. Yay, this is music to our ears, essentially, like, right? And Arun saying that I always see lists, awards, and guidelines as starting points. These are all librarians that are working in schools. So it's such a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. More such conversations, we hope to facilitate them soon. And of course, we have to say thank you. I'm going to say thank you to the various people who've joined us. If you're in a rush, you all can sign off. But if if you want to stay on, I want to thank, the Parag team, actually, Lakshmi Karunakaran, Tuhina, Vivek, and Reva, for the kind of supporting role that they've played with this bazaar. We're a small team. We're just a small, tiny team. So while we're hosting at the studio, somebody has to be at the store, somebody has to be managing things. I have to say that at every step of the way, whether it's Vivek or Reva or Tuhina or Lakshmi, they have been asking us, can we help you with this? Can you help you, with anything, just about anything? So a big thank you, not just for these honor lists that you've created and put out, but for supporting independent ventures, generously with your time, generously with your inputs. Thank you so much. So a big one going out there. And to all the people watching, Pribha K26, Niyati Sharma, Greenlit Fest, Preeti Ramchandran, Amit Ratna, Odyssey, you guys have just brought in massive audiences. Teju and Shaili will do shows with you repeatedly, I think. Like, right? I have some 100 names to call out and thank over here. Odysseys of Nash, Saurabh Thakur, Dhara Divine, Sunila Gupte, C. Larma, Sirat Sahej, Seera Naidu, C.A. Pooja Elwadi, Megha Gupta, Sheikh Swa, Sheetal Dambal, Ranjana, Parag Reeds, ADV Gary, Amit Last Photos, Radhika Nayak, Mithanti, Vikas Kainasta, Meenakshi Lingaraju, College Street Book, Pearl Mascarenas. We love your book, Pearl. Gurleen, Dharanya 2, Chimta Chor, who's of course watching us over here, Mahima Munga, Narmata Ragini, Act Mandar, Ishita Grama, Chandni Licious, Raghav, Prabha Tendulkar, Yashaswini, Shivanand, Bruno Bunny, Revati Kannan, Baby Bookaholic, Prachi Kalra. Thank you so much for watching us, Prachi. I loved what you were speaking with Joanne yesterday, and Pankaj Saikia and Kavita. The Dog Ears Bookshop, Leo, big shout out to you. Asha Nehmeya, Sushmita Ram Mohan, Smita Nayan Kumar, Rang Karmi, Robin Robic, Whoa, Ponderous, Lakshmi Karunakaran, Haripriya Batula, Preeti Menon, Lavender Blue, Narayan, Preeti Ramchandran, Rela Varala, Archana Atri, Fulas, then GNE Store or GNC Store, Arunji, Ritvika Roy, Vikas Kainasta, Gillo Gilheri, Shruti Sri Raghunath, Namita Patel, Sujita Selvakumar, Cody Wampel, Lakshmi Karunakaran, Matthew Anita. Whoa, that is the biggest list I've called out in a long, long time. Thank you for taking your time out and watching us at the show, either on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. This is the last Buzzaar for this season. We're going to take a short break, after this, perhaps 3 or 4 weeks. We've been running this show for 3 years, every Saturday, almost every Saturday. So we need to recharge those batteries a bit and think of newer formats that we can put out there. We'll be back with a new Buzzaar, I'm thinking in 3 weeks' time. But till then, there are these wonderful books that have been introduced to all of you that can help you uncover new ways of imagining, new ways of seeing, and new ways of feeling. Please do feel free to reach out to us or to any of the independent bookstores that you're familiar with and order these books from them. Funky Rainbow can be reached at 99004 95665. We'll see you next week. Oh, not next week, in a couple of weeks later. Till then, bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.